About you, but through Christ I can do all. Stand up tall with my left foot, post up on the wall. Easy if they fall in the streets, life can get hard. Streets used to be a lot different from what man recall. Me a aim for my post like a soccer ball. Still run the road that don't need a map at all. Babylon them want to hold me with a strap at all. But man a lion, me no Cancer nor Capricorn.
Though they want to see me fall, I'm gonna be okay. Though my back's against the wall, I'm gonna be okay. They fighting me now, I'm gonna be okay. Jehovah eyes are watching me now, I'm gonna be okay.
Welcome to Hope in the Six. I'm your host, Eddy Martinez. Today we have a special guest, Julia Huys. Hi.
Hi, Eddy.
All right, so hey, Julia, I want you to tell our audience what you do.
Sure. So I am a lawyer. I work for a legal aid clinic called Justice for Children and Youth, and I run a program called Street Youth Legal Services. So it's legal information, advice, and representation to young, unstably housed people, 16 to 24 years old.
All right. We're going to show a little clip and get into it. Open the Six.
Community Legal Aid Clinic. Does anyone know what that is?
Apply for legal aid.
Ways you are, right? I didn't know this stuff until I became a lawyer, and then I was like, what? I did not know this help. So, a community legal aid clinic, I describe a bit like a medical walk-in clinic. So just like there are doctors on duty at the medical walk-in clinic, at the legal aid clinic, there are lawyers on duty there to help you. One difference is it's for low-income people. The medical walk-in clinic is for anyone with status here. And just like the medical walk-in clinic, say where doctors can't perform surgery or they can't do an MRI, right? Like that's, the walk-in clinic is where you go for your
Diagnosis.
yeah, like a diagnosis or referral, or they do like, prescriptions for your ear infection and stuff like that. The legal aid clinic is the same, so they can't take on major lawsuits because like suing someone, unless it's in small claims court, we can talk about that in a minute, would take up the whole resources of an office for a year. It's very, very, very labor intensive. Like to sue the police or sue CIS or like sue anybody is very, very labor intensive. So they don't do that, but they will take on smaller matters, particularly landlord-tenant issues. If you receive an eviction notice, do not think you have to leave by the day on the eviction notice. In like 95% of cases, you can successfully fight an eviction notice. It's very hard to evict somebody. It takes a long time, and you have to like be like a consistent mess up of a person to get evicted, right? So, by mess up a person, I mean you're not paying rent and you're damaging the place, right? Like you're doing something wrong consistently. Hi. What? Certificate. Does anyone know what a legal aid certificate is? So it is. So it's not a physical certificate. I think the name is very confusing. It's a number that they email to you, and then you gotta sign a form and fax it back, right? It is what allows you to hire a private lawyer that the government will pay for.
Wonderful job. What I want to ask you about is what do youth need to do? Because they need to know how to navigate through the system themselves. They don't want to solely depend on a lawyer. We need representation, correct, right? But they need to know more about their rights more than just relying on an individual, because sometimes, you have court-appointed lawyers or whatever, and maybe not in the best interest, of the youth or the client, depending. Sometimes the severity. I had one time a client reoffend, and his lawyer was like, no, he's not dealing with it. He didn't want to take on that, this guy's keep committing, You know, and I don't blame them. You know what I mean? But I want the youth to know how to navigate through the system itself. So in particular, on the video that we just watched, there was a point where you were talking about like legal aid certifications. They need to know about it more. You know, I help them call and stuff like that. But I want the audience to know about what it is and how to navigate through the system.
Sure. So in Ontario, one, it's very important to have an idea of where you can get legal help.
That's right.
And when I do a workshop, I always talk about the various ways you can get legal help within the province of Ontario. Other provinces have different ways of getting legal help, but here in Ontario, you can go to a legal aid clinic. This is your community clinic, which I explained in the video. But a legal aid certificate, it's not a physical certificate, it's a number. And I think it's a bit misleading in how it works.
Yes.
But it's a number you get when you are eligible to hire a lawyer. It's a private lawyer that the government will pay for.
Right.
So it's for low-income individuals, but you have to qualify. So for criminal law issues, you have to be facing jail time in order to qualify for a certificate, unless you are under the age of 18. If you are under the age of 18, you can get a lawyer at any time. But if you are over the age of 18, you're facing jail time, you can get that legal aid certificate, assuming you meet the financial criteria. For family law matters, you can often get a certificate depending on the issue. So, for example, if Children's Aid Society is involved and perhaps taking your child, or it's a very difficult separation or divorce, and particularly when children are involved, you might be able to get a legal aid certificate.
Okay.
You can also get a legal aid certificate for immigration issues. So, and it's very important that the young person takes action on this. They get their referral from the courthouse, so they get that referral from duty counsel. They call the legal aid number, and then they are able to go about securing a lawyer. And they choose who their lawyer is, but my advice is to try to choose wisely at the beginning, because it can be difficult to change your lawyer. That said, if you really lose confidence in your lawyer and that relationship really breaks down, that's a time you should be calling legal aid to see if you can switch that certificate over. Because they are your rights, and you want to make sure you're getting good representation that you have confidence in.
Is there a time frame on the switching over? Because I know sometimes going midway, and like you said, they need to just examine. But sometimes you don't really know your lawyer, especially some that are incarcerated and dealing with the lawyer. Because some of the clients that I visit, they say, oh, I haven't spoken to my lawyer in a long time. So then I reach out to the lawyer. And I'm like, so how's your case going? And they feel discouraged because they feel like the lawyer's not really representing them or really cares. You know, they just got like just a paycheck to them.
Sure.
So when two questions. For one is like, so at that moment, should they change right once they feel that way, or if it's too long in the case, they should just try to tough it out?
If they're starting to feel that way, I think they should reach out to their lawyer and try to reestablish that communication. A lot of times, it's not that the lawyer is not representing them, but that the lawyer is busy or hasn't had a reason to communicate with them, or there's things going on in the background the young person might not realize or know about. But if they have reestablished communication and it's not working, they're looking to change certificate, there's no set timeline. It's at the discretion of Legal Aid Ontario. The sooner the better. If it's very late in the game, it's quite difficult, as a lot of work has already been done, and it delays also the progress in their case to switch counsel at a very late stage. So there's no set timeline for that.
Okay. But what about the process, though? Because, I mean, sometimes, the waiting for the regular lawyer is just, But the process now, so I switch, of course they perhaps will put the case off, because, you tell them you're switching lawyers, you'll put the case off. But how long would it take now for you to get that new one or the legal aid? Is it more faster now after you got through the first phase of getting a legal aid certificate? You're on file, so it will come more faster, or it's still probably a little lengthy wait?
I think it depends on the case. I think the first thing you want to do is call Legal Aid Ontario and see if they're willing to change their certificate for you. Because if they're not willing to do that, then there's probably no use in going ahead and trying to find some other counsel. Okay.
What would make them not want to change it for you, though? Maybe too long of the...
I think it depends on the length of the process, what's been happening. It's difficult, I think, to change counsel, and they have billing issues as well. They have their own concerns within that. But again, it's really case-specific, so I don't want to put too many qualifiers on it. I think it's always worth to inquire and to call, but try to establish that relationship with your lawyer as well.
Okay. Well, It's very important. When I look at youth facing the criminal justice system, just being involved in crime or you know, the system as far as being arrested or something like that, I feel that they really need to know what to do. You know, knowledge is power. Lack of knowledge, lack of confidence, not knowing what you're doing, you know, it's just, it gets a little crazy. You know, it gets complicated. So I'm glad that you're here so we could really get into it, knowing your rights. I was at court with some parents, and they didn't even know when the case was closed. They were like, all right, court is dismissed, like, for the day. And they were still sitting. I was like, oh no, come, like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, so it's good to have this type of conversation,
Sure.
that everybody could hear this and even know. Because even a parent who want to get involved, they just said, the guy told me, he's like, I have no clue what to do. You know, I'm here and I just don't know. But thank you.
Yeah.
So I was there to help, you know. But it's good to have the knowledge themselves. But at this moment, we're going to go to a break. You know, tune in. Stay tuned. Open at 6.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome to Shadow Auto.
Hello, my name is Anisha, and I'm the production manager of TCN Network. Have you ever wanted to host your own show? Do you have a message to share? Well, you're in luck. We are looking for dynamic and unique individuals to host their own shows. We are seeking people who are committed, motivated, and energetic. Do you want to be the next Jimmy Fallon, Ellen DeGeneres, or Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed Unsolved? Start here. Fill out the Propose a Show form on mytcntv.com. We're here to educate, support, and build the community. Can you lead by example? Go the extra mile and seek knowledge? Are you humble, disciplined, responsible, selfless, and enthusiastic? Those are our core values. And if you identify with them, you could be part of a growing network that focuses on positivity and uplifting our community. We can't wait for you to join us on TCN Network and hope to hear from you soon.
You should never be arrested at school, like a child, like someone under 18. How dare, for a little bit of weed, whatever it is, even if the you has crack, where'd you get this from? How can you be, how can you justify arresting a child at school who didn't stab or shoot someone? You know what I'm saying? Or just for a fight. That's a suspension, not a, so I was arrested at school in Canada, right? For robbing a jersey off of a kid that was a year younger than me, okay? Nah, man, there's nothing you could say that's gonna make me see how they could justify it. If your son is victimized at school, you remember that other person that, you ask how old the other person that hit him is. I'm just saying the way we have officers at school ready to arrest your kid if he finds your kid with some weed, or your kid gets into a fight, he actually ends up going to jail and catching a charge. It's literally the school to jail pipeline. If you're a kid, right, and you get into a fight at school or something happens with a jersey or whatever, first thing that needs to be noted, how old is the other kid? Boom. And then they should be disciplined within the school. Why? Because it happened in the school. Now, if it's a stabbing, a shooting, or someone actually breaks a bone, or someone beats your kid up and says, "Yo, if I see you on the road, blah blah blah." All right, that's different. But I mean, it's things that happen in school that aren't serious of a super serious nature. The disciplinary actions should be handled by the school and not sending kids from school to jail. The cops that arrested me that day, none of them had any problem with charging me with robbery over a football jersey. None of them. My lawyer told me if I pled out, that it's going to disappear when I turn 18. What happened when I pled out, I turned 18, I got charged with something else, and then I found out that no matter what, you would have had to have 5 years clean of your last charge for that to disappear when you turn 18. So now my YO record is actually on my adult record.
Welcome back to Hope in the Six. I'm your host, Eddie Martinez, and today I have Julia Huys. Yes. That I want to comment on that video.
Yeah.
You know, that's a young man that I'm very close with, and he's definitely passionate, you know, about, you know, what he's been through, you know. So he's expressing his emotions, which you can't wrong any human being for expressing their perspective. He felt like he'd been done wrong, unjust, treated unfairly, and for the most part, I personally agree. Not my views don't represent TCN Network or the organization I work for, but or his views, but you know, this platform is for everybody to express their perspective, you know. So he was now caught up in a situation where he was young, did something foolish, you know, took a young person jersey. You know, he felt, you know, that should be handled by the school. Why are you going to have a police get involved with I took somebody's shirt. We're kids. We do stupid things. Like, they should suspend him. But to get a criminally charged, you know, he felt very wronged about that. And you know, you could say anything, your perspective in regards, but yeah, it's very disturbing for him, you know, and I feel it, you know. What are your views? What you think in regards?
So first off, I really do feel for this young man. I don't disagree with him at all, and I think that particularly for young racialized men, they may experience these situations more in schools. I think if you are a young person or if you are a parent of a young person, be aware of these issues. While we certainly can't stop the police from being involved or stop an expulsion or suspension from occurring, depending on behavior, you do have legal rights and actions that you can take. So if a young person has been suspended or expelled from school, I highly encourage them to call our legal aid clinic, Justice for Children and Youth, and you can find that information online. We have a 1-800 number and a number to call because there are mechanisms we can do to ensure that the young person continues on with their right to get an education, and it is their right. The other thing is, if an individual finds themselves in contact with the police, it's really important to understand and to know your rights when you're in contact with the police. So first of all, the advice any lawyer will give is to not say anything. If a young person is involved, if they're under the age of 18, their parent or guardian will be notified. They also always have the right to speak to duty counsel. So it's 24 access to a lawyer that you will have access to if you have been arrested, and it's a phone number that the police will allow you to call in order to get legal advice. This is for adults as well. What's really important, I think, that this young man brought up is the issue of youth records. So he brought up the fact, he brought up the fact that he clearly received a finding of guilt. It's important to note it's not a conviction. We have different language when we talk about young people who are under the age of 18. So he clearly got a finding of guilt for this. And what's important to note is when you turn 18, that finding of guilt does not necessarily just disappear. This is a very, very common
misconception.
That's
right. So
it's very common
need
that
you
we
to clear
think
that
this.
up, yes, because it's really an issue. Go ahead,
So in Canada, if a young person has a finding of guilt under the age of 18, it does not just disappear when they turn 18. Depending on the severity of the offense and the finding of guilt, there's a certain access period. Generally, the access period sorry, not generally, but in the most serious of cases, the access period lasts 5 years after the young person has completed their sentence. So this is important to note as well, because if they're 17 and they're charged and they get a sentence of probation, that access period might continue after they're done their probation. So it's very important to keep that in mind. And while access to the youth record is not public, so the young person could still say on a job application, no, I have no convictions, because it's not a conviction, it's a finding of guilt. They need to know that if they are charged as an adult, so we see this a lot, young people, they turn 18 and they're still young, they're still teenagers, you still make the same mistakes and you still assess risk in different ways, you still assess that as a teenager. But you need to know that the law treats you as an adult, and to be very cognizant of this, to keep this in mind, because if you are charged when you are 18 and you get an adult conviction, your youth record rolls over and becomes an adult conviction. So your youth charges that were available in that access period become adult convictions, and that stays with you, and it can be very serious. So please keep this in mind when you are dealing with a youth issue. Don't think, oh, I'll plead guilty and then I will, it'll disappear when I'm 18. Not necessarily. And when you're 18, don't think that, oh, I'm going to take a suspended sentence, which maybe means no jail time, but actually is a criminal record and could affect you. But not only that, it could bring over all of your youth records as well. So please, I really want young people to keep this in mind when they're dealing with this situation.
Very true. They need to be aware of this. I had a situation with school with similar to this young man when he was young, at least. This youth now was like being like picked on in school, and in a racial situation, and he finally decided to fight back, and he fought the kid, and then he was criminally charged. It's a fight. It's not nothing to do with drugs. This young man had to go down and get fingerprinted, which was crazy. And then now he had a lawyer, court-appointed lawyer, legal aid, right? And the lawyer was like, the best he could do for the individual was get him 6 months probation. And he was like, this kid never committed crime ever. Why would he get probation for fighting, especially for a bullying situation? You know, it was so crazy. But we got rid of that lawyer, which we talked about earlier, getting rid of a lawyer that you feel that because it was like the best I could do for you is 6 months. We're like, nah, new lawyer. We got him a new lawyer, and this lawyer represented him very well. When he went to the court, it was great. The judge was like, he was like, I'm so sorry that in these times that you have to be racialized. I was like, he was like, the judge apologized. He said, young man, stand up. And he's talking to the young man. He said, listen, stay out of trouble. Bam. Case dismissed. No record, no nothing. But these are the things people need to know. That was a victory, but not all cases are like that. But they need to know their rights, but they do need to stay out of trouble. Like, listen, this will carry over. Some youth I work with, they're like, oh, I'm only 16. Like, stop glorifying your youngness because you're committing crime. Like, get out of that lifestyle. And for parents, they need to know what to do. They need to know this too, so they can say, listen, son or daughter or whatever is going to carry over. This information is powerful. You know what I'm saying? Once they know it, now it'll shape their mind because they know consequences will follow. Sometimes you're doing things because you know you won't get in trouble or you could get away with it. But now you know, like, listen, this will stick and it will mess up your life. So
and that's exactly it. So even though you've turned 18 and you still feel young and you're still a teenager, you're going to have adult consequences at that age. So please keep that in mind. That being said, always you can always fight the matter in court and always get a good lawyer and take the matter seriously. Okay. But be aware of your responsibilities in that too.
All right, we're going to go to a break. We'll be back after these short messages. Tune in. Hope in the 6.
Hello, my name is Anisha, and I'm the production manager of TCN Network. Have you ever wanted to host your own show? Do you have a message to share? Well, you're in luck. We are looking for dynamic and unique individuals to host their own shows. We are seeking people who are committed, motivated, and energetic. Do you want to be the next Jimmy Fallon, Ellen DeGeneres, or Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed Unsolved? Start here. Fill out the Propose a Show form on mytcntv.com. We're here to educate, support, and build the community. Can you lead by example? Go the extra mile and seek knowledge? Are you humble, disciplined, responsible, selfless, and enthusiastic? Those are our core values. And if you identify with them, you could be part of a growing network that focuses on positivity and uplifting our community. We can't wait for you to join us on TCN Network and hope to hear from you soon.
Welcome back to Hope in the Six. I'm your host, Eddy Martinez. Today we have Julia Huys, and we're talking about legal issues. What are my rights? I have the right to, and then, she breaks down the information that there is for us to know to navigate through the legal justice system. But at this time, we're going to get into this news article that I read occasionally on the show. Sometimes I read letters from inmates personally, or I will read this news article called Cell Count. It's for prisoners, ex-prisoners, and their families. And now on this platform is for all the audience to also hear their voice. This is a voice of those who are on the inside. They have a voice too. We're all human beings at the end of the day. We make mistakes. Some are very bad and different levels. But we all are humans, and we deserve some type of rehabilitative process or something to go through to get back on track, right? We don't just say, okay, you did this horrible thing and we're over, right? So at this moment, I'm going to read from Cell Count, and I'm going to read the topic of this article is called and that's what we call social rehab. Really? So this is by Jonathan Levesque Gervais. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but hopefully I am. Howard Sappers, former senior correctional investigator, recently reported inmates were living in an inappropriate, toxic environment. That means CSC's breaching our rights of security, Section 7 of the Charter. There is a case law about its serious psychological tension induced by the state is against S7 of the Charter. See Blenko versus Canada, Human Rights Commission, 2002 RCS. I've been told that I will never be able to go back to a medium security institution as a solution to alleviate my XXX days of segregation trip that has begun to play tricks on my mind. I mean, I was in a medium security level at Fire, then for no valid reason but arbitrary ones, I got maxed out. I'm scared. I have never been physically violent toward anyone. I never drank alcohol or used drugs. But CSC is saying I don't want to change. They claim I never did the so-called ICPM-M program, but they never offered it to me. Yet, since I have long-term to do, 10 years total. Upon my first interview, my old PO at Medium Institution, she said to me, forget your 1/3. You meet the criteria for a detention review, so I wouldn't count on your 2/3, and you have a long-term, so you aren't a priority for programming. Sad. And that's what we call social rehab. Really? Let's be serious. We are now talking about carceral trauma, which is the equivalent of PTSD, except you develop this particular trauma inside prison. Personally, I never saw any kind of violence towards anyone since I started my pen bit. But I met people who have been suspected of murdering other inmates, people who have been threatened by 3 guys with shanks and sexually abused, people who saw someone getting killed in front of their eyes, people who witnessed suicide. The list goes like that for quite a bit. I mean, prison is very dangerous, and this is not only inmates' fault. It's mostly the government fault. It's mostly the government fault. So I'm gonna stop right there. That's the young man's perspective. I'm not gonna say that I agree 100%, but I do agree in part. You know, we need more rehabilitative services, and we probably shouldn't deny them that right. You know, based on criteria or whatever. According to what he said, he was saying that they said to him it was not priority for him at the moment. You know what I'm saying? So he get pushed back for that rehabilitative services. You know, but the trauma that he mentioned, I never even thought about that. Carceral trauma, like he said, it's like post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's developed in prison by witnessing all these things. And for real, because some people have small charges, but they don't have bail, they can't afford the money, so they sit in jail. But in your sitting in jail, you could catch another charge while in jail. You could actually fight. You could get into some big thing. You have to defend yourself. Not only that, say you have a small charge, right? And you see some things going on. I mean, the exposure is horrid, right? So that's very powerful. And I thank God for, shout out to Cell Count, Lindsay in particular. She's the young lady that connected me with the organization. And I'll share their voice, Like I said, the views are not TCNs or YSMs, but these are the individual going through their situation. We may agree or we may disagree. I particularly agree because I want to see more rehabilitative services. So I thank people like you that are working in the trenches to help people, give them the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like give them the knowledge, and I've seen you in action. Like you're not a stranger. Like I know you. That's why you're on the show, because I seen your work ethic and you represent. Even that we had an incident and you ran out there. You're outside. You're not an inside. She's not an inside lawyer. Everyone, she's out there in the streets representing. You do care, and I appreciate that. But what do you any thoughts or concerns in regards to that article?
First off, I like that, not an inside lawyer. That's good. But I think I don't disagree with the statements as well, and I think we see a lot of young people who are entering the criminal justice system and then get caught in it, and it's very, very important to have youth hubs are so important, and have funding for youth hubs, and have that access for young people. I think with respect to rights, it's so important when we're talking about young people's housing. So not just a young person's criminal justice involvement, but let's talk about rights violations that young people face. I think young street-involved youth, there's this stigma against them that maybe they're getting into trouble or are always involved in criminal justice issues. But a lot of young people on the street face rights violations themselves.
Right.
So
we got it. I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay. But we have a video, and you're gonna get into it. So we're gonna play this video, and then we're gonna take a break. And after the break, we're gonna get into this.
Okay.
Open at 6. Tune in. Stay tuned.
Duty counsel, they know all the players in the courthouse. They're there every day, so they know the judges, they know the justice of the peace, they know, they know the crowns, and so they know if you have a good chance or if you don't. And particularly for bail, if you run a bail hearing one day, it's very difficult to use the same plan the next day. So say you're like, I got a plan for release, this is where I'm going to stay, I have a bail program, I have a surety, whatever it is. If the judge doesn't accept it, the next day a different judge can't go back on their colleague's ruling. Right. They need something else. They need then you're going to need more things to get released. They're manipulating you. They're they're doing that to sort of make you feel like you're being difficult. But the truth is, you're just enforcing your rights. They're yours. Why let them take them? It's like if someone steals your backpack, what are you going to do? If you watch someone steal your backpack, what would you do?
Talk to them, get somebody in you. Well, then again, that's another thing. It really depends on what's in there.
It depends on probably who's taking it. Yeah. But depending on who's taking your backpack, someone you think is equal size to you, what are you going to do?
Well, it really depends, man. I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble. Because it's next thing you know, you go to get your bag back, now that person's the victim, you're the one getting in shit.
Actually, Rob gave the perfect answer. You gave the right answer. I need to come up with a better analogy. Because there are very good lawyers and there are some not so good lawyers. And I think the majority of them are very good. But if you lose confidence in your lawyer, or let's say the relationship isn't working, you're not getting along, there's something there that's not going well,
Welcome back to Hope in the Six. I'm your host, Eddy Martinez, and we have today a lovely Julia Huys. You know, before the break, we were getting into the housing elements. Some youth that are on parole or probation, they need to now be seeking, like, try to get housed. You know, that's sometimes that's a part of their order. But nonetheless, just the marginalized in general, you know, they're not faced with they're not even doing criminal activities, but they need housing. You know, and low income situation. There's so many barriers, but according to the video, you was kind of explaining certain rights in the housing sector. You know, that sometimes you know, like, the landlord at times probably abuse certain things because people lack knowledge. But you could swing it back, you know. But what was your perspective?
Sure. So in the video, I was talking about a couple things. There's housing rights, and in general,
yes.
There's rights that you have that are inherent to you. But part of that is, even though they should be respected, you need to know them and you need to work on protecting them.
Right.
And I meet a lot of young people who think that, or they're kind of manipulated into thinking they're being difficult. That's sort of what I was trying to say at the end.
Right.
Rights in general. Someone tries to make you feel a bit guilty for trying to enforce your rights at the landlord-tenant board for a working stove or a working fridge,
definitely those.
or you want to make a complaint about something to your employer, and an employer might say, "Oh, why do you have to be like that? Why do you have to be difficult?" And the truth is, you're not being difficult. You're standing up for yourself.
Right,
and I use that analogy of the backpack because
backpack.
A lot of young people, they if you have a backpack and someone takes it, what are you going to do? You might ask for it back.
Right.
I don't want you to fight for it back.
Right,
but
right.
You might ask for it back, or you might tell someone at the shelter, the drop-in center, or wherever you are that someone took it. You're going to do something about it. You won't let it passively go away. And I want young people to think about their rights that way, to take action, to hold on to them. So for landlord-tenant issues, I'm talking about illegal things that landlords might do. And I think for tenants, you have to keep in mind you have three main obligations. You have to pay your rent. You have to pay your rent on time.
Yes.
You cannot damage the unit.
Yes.
And you have to be good to your neighbors. And those are the three main things. And if you're doing that, aside from a couple of little things, it should be difficult to evict someone. But particularly now in the city of Toronto with increased rents, young people are facing illegal rent increases. They're facing illegal evictions. Landlord is saying they're going to use the space for their own use. And that might be valid, but it might not be valid. So I always encourage a young person to seek the advice of a lawyer, to call Justice for Children and Youth, to call your local legal aid clinic, and to find out what your rights are, because there are rights that you might not even realize. A lot of people don't even know the day you get that first eviction notice, if you've corrected the behavior alleged in that first eviction notice, the eviction notice becomes void, and nothing happens after that. You have to correct it within 7 days. So if you've paid your rent in full within 7 days,
of the eviction,
nothing happens after that. But you have to correct the behavior. But once that's done, not too much happens. Now, if you keep doing it, you might have problems. So that's why I really encourage young people to take action.
I'm gonna give you a scenario. I have an apartment, and the plumbing is bad. Like, say my toilet can't flush.
Great.
You know, and I complained about it, right? And then, you know, I have to find some other way to use the bathroom or whatever, right? And I say I'm not going to pay rent because my toilet's not working and I've been complaining. So then I get an eviction notice. You see what I'm saying? That's now a scenario created, right? So
that's a great example. So when you have a maintenance and repairs issue, and it is within your rights to have a unit that is in a good state of repair, and it's the landlord's legal obligation to take care of the maintenance issues. So the first thing you want to do is notify your landlord and keep evidence of this. I always teach this in my workshop. Evidence tips. Keep a record of everything. Text messages are wonderful. Emails are great. Take pictures, but keep evidence of what has happened. Tell the landlord, and if the landlord is still not fixing it and you've notified the landlord, you can go to the landlord-tenant board to enforce those rights. And I really encourage this. Some people try to not pay their rent or do things. I don't encourage you to do that. Go to the landlord-tenant board and make a complaint. And if your landlord tries to evict you, you have evidence to show. You know, I made several complaints about my rights, and now the landlord's trying to punish me for enforcing my rights, and that's also against the law. So the landlord can get fined and punished for retribution. For trying to get at you.
This is definitely important information that they need to know, because sometimes they don't know this. And because the lack of knowledge, youth are they're young, right? And they're getting housing and they don't know their rights, and when they get these threats, they feel so like, oh my God, and they panic because they don't know what to do, So withholding that rent, because of the maintenance, and then they get they got a eviction notice. What do you do? Well, pretty much basics. I'm tongue twisting. Pretty much you could contact a lawyer, because I'm right there. Is a weird situation, because personally, if it was me, I'm saying I'm not paying you rent. No, my toilets need to fix. So I definitely would hold it. And then that eviction notice, I still wouldn't pay until the repair is done. And a lot of times, tenants landlords take advantage of tenants because they think they're just little kids and they're young. So they don't think they need to be prompt or is not an immediate concern. They have this building is run down, a little 19-year-old's in the building, and he, whatever. I'll get to it when I get to it. So I don't like these abuse. You know what I'm saying? And we're not bashing anyone. We're just talking about real issues, real scenarios. But I want to at this moment, we got a thing called Bars for Bars. This is where youth on the outside, they will now do poetry, rap, spoken word, or a song for those that are incarcerated. So we have the papers or the letters from the inside, but now we got from those that are outside talking to those on the inside. So we're going to go to Jazz and Fresh, Bars for Bars, hoping the 6.
What's up, y'all? This is Jason, a.k.a. Jason Fresh, part of the Hope team, and we out here doing Bars for Bars.
That was so awesome, amazing. Shout out to Charmy. She did a wonderful job. That's very inspiring from those that are outside and just displaying their talent and then communicating with those that are incarcerated, their struggle. This is just a community that we're trying to work on. We're trying to build a proper society that we're kind of not naive to real issues or real charges that people face, but compassionate and still trying to connect. So shouts out to Charmy and all the youth that are previously performed and displayed their talents. If somebody was watching this and perhaps say, okay, they're not really interested in all this legal talk or whatever, but just check out the show also just to even hear what the youth have to say. This is a platform where everybody gets to share their perspective. So sometime I'll have a youth that are caught up in the justice system come on the show and just talk about his experience and what he's been going through, his perspective. Everybody get a voice. This is Hope in the 6, so it's about what's out there. And people like you is important to the puzzle of reintegration or developing a proper community, rehabilitation. You're a lawyer. A lot of people don't like lawyers. Lawyers kind of get the bad face, but I mean, from my experience, I know you do a wonderful job. I'd like to thank you for being on the show. But at this moment now, I want you to tell everybody how they can get in touch with you or your services.
Sure. Thank you so much, Eddy. So I work at a legal aid clinic called Justice for Children and Youth. You can call our 1-800 number if you are under the age of 18 or you are unstably housed under 25. It is 1-866 999-5329. And again, I encourage everyone to take a look at our website, jfcy.org. There's a lot of information about your rights out there, rights you might not even know you had. And I really encourage you to educate yourself about your rights and take action.
All right, you heard it. So I want to say thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate this, sharing your experience, sharing the knowledge. Knowledge is key. Without knowledge, you lack power. You know, knowledge is even more valuable than money. You know what I mean? Once you knowledge, you know how to navigate. So thank you for watching, tuning into Hope in the Six. Stay blessed.
I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I'm gonna be okay. I will fear no evil, that will my rod and my staff. I'm gonna be okay. Thou preparest a table before me in front of my enemies. I'm gonna be okay. Thou anointed my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. All on my shoulder, I'm a soldier, thought I told you, but with Jehovah.